Hi, I'm Wei Jie, co-founder of PathoVax. We are advancing a vaccine breakthrough for a world free of cancer and disease caused by HPV, the human papillomavirus, and while we can more than double a $2 billion annual market. And we have the team to make this happen. As PhD founders from Johns Hopkins, Josh and I have been working together for more than 6 years. Marco has spent 20 years building successful vaccine startups, and our scientific advisors are world experts and have developed the current HPV vaccines. They are joined by business advisors with a wealth of regulatory and pharma experience, having served at Merck and the FDA. Did you know that 1 in 4 of us is infected with HPV that causes a variety of cancers in both genders that accounts for 5% of all new cancers in the world each year? Not only that, it causes diseases in young children. And that's because HPV can be transmitted not just via sexual intercourse, but also simple skin contact, so like a handshake. So who knew networking could be deadly, right? So we cannot remove HPV infections. The only solution is vaccination. And we have 3 approved vaccines that generate $2 billion in revenues each year. But the total addressable market is more than double this figure. Even worse, the CDC just published a report stating that there's an increase in HPV-associated cancers in the US in the recent years. The key reason is that these vaccines do not offer complete protection. And that's because these vaccines are based on presenting non-infectious particles that look exactly like the HPV viruses to the immune system. So think of it as presenting a criminal mugshot. The issue here is each particle is specific to a unique HPV type. So the coverage can only extend to 7 of the 15 sexually acquired HPVs. Now, expanding coverage introduces major complexities that is not sustainable even for large pharma. The inadequate coverage means continued screening for women costing $6 billion each year, 3 times as much as we spend on HPV vaccines, while totally neglecting males. And the focus on sexually acquired HPVs creates a stigma that limits market uptake. So for a cancer preventative vaccine, this is just not acceptable, and we can do better. And our solution is RGVax that leverages on an FDA-approved platform. But now we insert in RG1, a protein found across all HPV types. So now, vaccination with RGVax produces a protective response against a broad range of HPVs with just 1 particle. We went on to validate this in the established animal assays for HPV vaccines and shown that RGVax prevents infection of all 15 HPVs responsible for cervical cancers and even others that cause multiple diseases, even the skin indications. So I'm proud to share with you that PathoVax owns the exclusive worldwide license for this technology that has already been issued a US patent. So in talking to potential industry partners, we know RGVax satisfies their needs because we can finally tackle all cancer-causing HPVs. Since now the coverage extends to the non-sexually acquired types, we can overcome the social stigma and boost market uptake. Best part, we can even position this as a childhood vaccine with superior uptakes. Now, the common HPV protein strategy using RG1 also dramatically reduces the complexity in production and formulation. Compared to others working on universal HPV vaccine, our RGVax relies on a platform that has already been approved in humans with simplified formulation. Most importantly, we will be the first universal HPV vaccine to enter human trials. Just in the US, the comprehensive coverage of RGVax will boost market uptake and increase and more than double the size of a $2 billion annual market segment. Now, the attractive features of RGVax also makes it a great candidate to tackle the major underserved regions in the world, so that ensures future sustained growth for this segment. And we are well positioned to exploit all these opportunities because our RGVax has been independently vetted by experts at the National Cancer Institute that has awarded $5 million to advance this into human trials in 2018. This means a significant chunk of the de-risking milestones have already been paid for. And that also means $5 million that gets us tremendous momentum towards as we move forward in tackling all these key value inflection points. So looking at similar vaccine successes, we are looking at lucrative partnerships happening in the very near future, ranging from $80 million to more than $250 million. And we have already initiated discussions with some of these potential partners, some of whom are competitors, but RGVax is then a great asset for them in terms of a product lifecycle management strategy. We have raised to date over $700,000 in seed capital, and 43North's $1 million provides the critical operating capital that will help ensure a successful strategic partnership. Since October last year, we have been actively engaging the Buffalo community as potential partners for our clinical trials and research collaborators to explore new indications for our RGVax platform. Even though we are based in Baltimore, we have made trips up here, which has allowed us to see firsthand the key benefits of engaging in high-quality biomedical research in a capital-efficient manner. In fact, these are just some of the key biomedical leaders that we have already reached out to, and some of whom have already expressed interest in partnering with PathoVax. Working with 43North, we will be creating highly skilled jobs to manage our clinical trials, vaccine production, research work, and business management. In return, we bring to Buffalo the key insights and connections that we've built out from prestigious accelerator programs from the Baltimore and Boston ecosystem. Just earlier this year, PathoVax has been recognized as a top 10 healthcare startup in Americas in a major life science competition organized by the corporate venture arm of GSK. So in due time, our success will showcase this ecosystem to the rest of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know of someone with cancer. If we can spare them the devastating effects of this painful disease, wouldn't you do everything in your power to make that happen? For the first time in history, we have the opportunity to create a world free of HPV cancer and disease with your support. So please, join us in blazing the trail to complete protection. Thank you.
You know, how'd you think you did compared to the last time? Much better?
I hope so.
I think so. So since you had Pfizer up there and Tracy worked at Pfizer, we have to call on her first.
Be first. Congratulations, very nice presentation, and congratulations on the success you've had to date. So I see your IND ready, and your phase 1 is poised to start in 2018. That's an inflection point, it seems, with some of the larger scale pharmaceutical companies that you're starting to talk to. Mm-hmm. How do you envision maneuvering through some of those companies? What's your strategy to work with them, exit with them? What are you thinking in terms of getting this to the next level?
So based on, that's a good question, and based on what we've seen in similar vaccine startup deals, acquisitions, majority of those tends to be upfront payments with milestone payments as the product goes into clinical trials. And along those lines, I think it's great that we have Marco on board, because he has done a ton of these M&A deals. He's just been involved in a vaccine startup, in a vaccine company that was sold off to J&J for $2.4 billion. So we have a wealth of expertise who can manage all these opportunities. What we are doing right now is we have started engaging with some of these vaccine manufacturers in the form of a research collaboration that will eventually lead on to a rights to the product as it goes into the market. Yeah, and it's great because in one of those conversations, in the first conversation with one of the major company, we had the head of the vaccine business development and the head of vaccine research in that same call. So we felt it was encouraging, that we have such an interest, as even for an initial phone call.
Can I ask?
John, yo, 100%. And then John has got to be next, of course.
And then I'll let John go. Just in terms of your manufacturing process, because right now you're IND enabled and you're ready to go, which is great. What do you think your challenges are going to be from a scalability perspective when you get past that? Have you thought that through that yet?
Yeah, so it's really exciting because the difficulties of translating research to clinical scale, industry scale is always challenging, and our manufacturing will be done by the end of this year. We know that we can do it. The beauty of our platform, because it's based on the existing vaccine system, the process is essentially a plug and play. We just plug it into the existing infrastructure. The benefit of this is instead of making 9 different bioreactors, we just need 1. So we are talking about tremendous cost savings, not just in production, but also in the complexity of mixing all these particles together.
Thank you.
John.
Thank you, Doctor. It was an excellent presentation, and I'm very excited to see this come through. I looked at a chance to look through the financials, and one of the things that you had in your a large component of the expenses had been in a freedom to operate patent. And I was wondering where that guidance came to do that review, and where you stand on that from a licensing argument standpoint.
Yeah, it was something that we caught on really early when we started the company, because as technical folks, you assume as long as the technology works well, everything else will fall in place. We do understand, because Josh and Richard, the advisors that we have been in this space forever, since the beginning. They knew not only the technical landscapes, but also the patent difficulties, the IP challenges in bringing forward this technology. So I think very quickly after we started a company, we started initiating a freedom to operate search on the potential infringing patents that might be problematic when we get to market. And the great news is that by the time we bring this into the clinic, we foresee a favorable outcome. So that's why we are really encouraged by those results. Yeah.
Thank you. And then on the team building as well aspect of it, you've got advisors from Merck and Novartis on board, which is the right way to go. Have you had your advisors invest in the company as well, so that you're fully aligned?
No, we have. So Richard, so our scientific advisors. So in fact, right now, all of these advisors, they have equity in the company. We are in the process of getting them on as follow-on as equity investment. Yes. So and in fact, right now we are mostly focused on getting. I think right now where we see the value in them, they have been extremely generous in spending their time with us, even without equity investment. I think that's great, and we're definitely in the process of speaking to some of them for additional follow-on investment. Yes.
And Eric.
And sorry, so just follow on. I think it's great because if you look at the business advisors, we have folks from life sciences venture capital firms, and the conversations that we have with them is, when the time is right, they will come in with the Series A fundraising.
Two things. I don't understand the industry that well. It's not my background, but I do have a question about: did you guys actually invent the vaccine, or are you licensing it from someone else?
So yeah. So this technology came out. Our scientific advisors are the ones who invented this technology. Josh and I, we were associated with Richard because we spent our time at Hopkins. Josh is actually the one who is developing the whole new set of clinical assays that is going to be used within the clinical trials for this particular product. So we've had great working experience and trust with Richard for the longest time.
So your advisors own it, and they're licensing it to you guys?
Yes. So Hopkins owns the technology, but we have the exclusive license for this.
Okay. And for a particular time frame, or is it exclusive? Or
exclusive, yeah.
Eventually it becomes open to other people? In other words, I'm trying to understand what happens down the line if they want to license it to other people.
Oh, so this is the term that we have agreed on is 20 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then the second question is, I've invested in people who are engineers or heavily, backed engineering teams or PhDs and whatnot, and they tend not to have the business acumen to make the company work well. And I see that you have some business advisors, but what about on the actual team? Is there anybody who can help, commercialize a product and whatnot?
So in that end, the way we see our team is Marco would be the reason why we brought on Marco is because he has done M&A deals. He has done in terms of growing vaccine startups from day zero to exit. He has done the full gauntlet of activities. I myself this is my second startup. I actually took a year off during my undergraduate days to work in a biotech startup. So I took my undergrad in Singapore, came over to UPenn, spent a year working in a startup, loved it, so went back to Singapore, got my degree, and came to Hopkins to do my PhD. So this has been something that I've always been interested and passionate about.
So I'm going to wade into the deep end here with potentially a very stupid question. I work for a coffee company, and the last time I was anywhere near science was 35 years ago at an internship at Roswell Park, so I'm dating myself. But this protein you're targeting, RG1, is it subject to mutations? And how stable is it as a target for this therapy?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, hold on. I mean, come on, let's go. Shell's Coffee, did you hear that question? I mean, that was unbelievable. Come on, that was great.
That's all I have.
So the beauty of, the great thing about, well, I won't say great, but what's unique about HPV viruses is they are DNA virus. So when you think about influenza, you think about HIV, these are RNA viruses where they are very prone to mutation. DNA viruses are extremely stable, and which is why when we insert this RG1, there is minimal, there is no divergence, or there is no chance that the virus will acquire new mutations to evade this immune system. Yeah, and that's the great part about our technology, because the fact that the reason why Richard was there, we were there from the very beginning. We knew, everyone was looking at the wrong protein. When we found the right protein that's highly conserved in all HPV types, put it in, boom, broad spectrum protection.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks. You're not finished. Hold on. So I noticed that you had somebody on your advisory board who's here in the audience. We're going to ask Dr. Norma Nowak to stand up and ask you a question that she would have liked you to talk about. Norma, she's a member of the 43North board and one of the great research scientists here at Roswell Park Cancer Institute. So what would you like to make sure that he talks about? So I'm going to give you a chance to ask him a question.
So Wei-Ji, when you think about it, you're working on HPV-related viruses. Could you describe to us where you see this technology going for other types of cancer?
Yeah, so that's the amazing, the amazing promise of our platform, because what we have right now is a carrier technology that expresses any protein of interest onto it. And what it does is, it's because it's able to do it in a densely repetitive fashion, the immune system can really rapidly recognize it. So it's right there in your face to the immune system. So that means we can expand into other infectious diseases where we have well-defined proteins, or even cancers where we know that there's a specific protein that's only expressed in cancer cells. If you put it there, the applications of these technologies are just endless. But right now we're focusing on HPV right now, because that's where we have the greatest traction. By coming here to Buffalo, I think we've already identified several faculty where we can explore those opportunities. I think this will really change this in the platform play, and I think we can really make a difference in clinical impact. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Good job.